Cleopatra VII. The name itself conjures images of beauty, power, and intrigue. Over 2 millennia after her death, Cleopatra remains one of the most famous women in history. But who was she? Was she a seductress who wielded her charm over powerful men? Or was she a shrewd and capable ruler who fought tirelessly to preserve her kingdom? In this journey, we'll uncover the real Cleopatra, a woman of exceptional intelligence, political acumen, and cultural finesse. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt, ruling during a time of turmoil, when her kingdom stood as a shimmering jewel, coveted by the ever-expanding Roman Empire. This is the story of Cleopatra, not just as a queen, but as a visionary leader, whose legacy has endured for centuries. Cleopatra was born in 69 BCE in Alexandria, Egypt, a city founded by Alexander the Great and the heart of the Hellenistic world. Her family, the Ptolemies, were of Macedonian Greek origin. They had ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years, blending Greek and Egyptian traditions in a way that defined Cleopatra's upbringing. From an early age, Cleopatra stood out. While most members of her family were more concerned with their lavish lifestyles, Cleopatra dedicated herself to learning. She was fluent in multiple languages: Egyptian, Greek, and possibly Latin, Hebrew, and others, an extraordinary skill that allowed her to communicate directly with her subjects and foreign dignitaries. Alexandria, Cleopatra's home, was not just a city. It was the intellectual capital of the ancient world. The Library of Alexandria held countless texts from across the known world, and its scholars were the best of their time. It was here that Cleopatra absorbed knowledge about politics, science, and philosophy. However, the Ptolemies ruled with a precarious grip. They faced frequent revolts from Egyptians who saw them as foreign rulers. Within the royal family, betrayals and assassinations were common as siblings vied for power. Cleopatra grew up in a world where loyalty was rare and survival required cunning. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, also known as Auletes, or the flute player, was a controversial ruler. He was criticized for his dependence on Rome, which he relied upon to maintain his throne. These early experiences likely taught Cleopatra the importance of strategic alliances, a lesson she would use throughout her reign. In 51 BCE, at the age of 18, Cleopatra ascended the throne of Egypt after the death of her father, Ptolemy XII. According to his will, Cleopatra was to co-rule with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was just 10 years old at the time. However, this wasn't a peaceful partnership. The Ptolemaic tradition of sibling co-regency often led to conflict, and Cleopatra's case was no exception. From the beginning, Cleopatra asserted her independence, breaking away from her brother's advisors. She dropped his name from official documents and had her face depicted alone on coins, a clear statement of her intent to rule as sole monarch. This boldness angered Ptolemy's guardians, especially his chief advisor, the ambitious eunuch Pothinus. The tension reached its peak in 49 BCE, when Pothinus and his allies staged a coup against Cleopatra, forcing her to flee Egypt. But Cleopatra was not one to give up easily. She retreated to the eastern deserts and began assembling an army, waiting for the right moment to strike back. That moment came when Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt in 48 BCE, pursuing his rival Pompey during Rome's civil war. Cleopatra saw Caesar's arrival as an opportunity to regain her throne. Caesar, meanwhile, sought to settle the Ptolemaic dispute to stabilize Egypt, which was critical to Rome's grain supply. In a legendary act of boldness, Cleopatra had herself smuggled into Caesar's quarters, reportedly rolled up in a carpet or bedsack. Her dramatic entrance and charm impressed Caesar, who agreed to mediate between her and Ptolemy XIII. Caesar declared that Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII should co-rule once again, but this decision did not sit well with Ptolemy's supporters. The situation escalated into the Alexandrian War, a violent conflict between Caesar's forces and those loyal to Ptolemy XIII. After months of fighting, Caesar emerged victorious. Ptolemy XIII drowned in the Nile during the final battle, and Cleopatra was restored to the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, whom she married according to custom. But Cleopatra's true power had now been solidified. Cleopatra's alliance with Caesar wasn't just political, it also became personal. Their partnership would shape the next chapter of her reign and alter the course of history. Cleopatra and Julius Caesar's partnership marked a turning point for both Egypt and Rome. For Cleopatra, Caesar's support secured her position as queen and gave her the chance to stabilize her kingdom. For Caesar, Cleopatra represented a crucial ally who controlled the grain supply Rome desperately needed. After the chaos of war, Cleopatra set about restoring order in Egypt. With Caesar at her side, she worked to repair Alexandria and reaffirm her control over the Nile Valley. The two were not just allies, they became lovers, and in 47 BCE, Cleopatra gave birth to a son named Ptolemy XV, whom she called Caesarion, meaning Little Caesar. Their relationship, however, caused a stir in Rome. Cleopatra accompanied Caesar to the city, where her presence as a foreign queen fueled rumors and resentment among the Roman elite. Cleopatra was seen as a threat, a woman who could influence the most powerful man in the Republic. Caesar's growing ambition to consolidate power further heightened tensions in Rome. Some feared that Cleopatra and Caesarion could be part of his plans to establish a dynasty, blending Roman and Egyptian rule. These fears contributed to the conspiracy that led to Caesar's assassination on the Ides of March in 44 BCE. With Caesar's death, Cleopatra's position became precarious. She quickly returned to Egypt, where she focused on strengthening her kingdom and securing Caesarion's claim as her co-ruler. But Rome was now in turmoil, and Cleopatra would soon find herself drawn into its power struggles once again. Cleopatra's return to Egypt marked a period of relative stability. As a ruler, she was deeply involved in the administration of her kingdom, overseeing reforms that strengthened the economy. She expanded trade networks, re-established Egypt's dominance over neighboring territories, and promoted the worship of Egyptian gods alongside her own divine status. To her people, Cleopatra was more than a queen. She was a symbol of Egypt's independence and prosperity. She positioned herself as the living embodiment of Isis, the mother goddess, blending her Greek heritage with Egyptian traditions to unify her diverse kingdom. After Caesar's death, Rome descended into a power struggle between his assassins and his allies. One of those allies was Mark Antony, a charismatic general who controlled the eastern provinces of the Roman Republic. Cleopatra saw an opportunity to align with Antony, much as she had with Caesar. Their alliance quickly became personal. Antony was captivated by Cleopatra's charm, intelligence, and political acumen. Together, they formed a partnership that would challenge the might of Rome itself. Cleopatra provided Antony with the resources he needed to wage wars against their rivals in Rome, while Antony supported Cleopatra's efforts to consolidate her power in the eastern Mediterranean. In return, Antony declared Cleopatra and her children rulers of vast territories, an act known as the Donations of Alexandria. Back in Rome, the Donations of Alexandria outraged Octavian, Caesar's adopted son and heir. Octavian used the affair to turn public opinion against Antony and Cleopatra, accusing them of plotting to overthrow the Republic and establish an Eastern Empire. The conflict culminated in the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE, a decisive naval engagement off the coast of Greece. Despite their combined forces, Antony and Cleopatra were defeated by Octavian's fleet. The loss marked the beginning of the end for both of them. After their defeat, Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt, where Octavian's forces soon followed. In the face of certain defeat, Antony took his own life. Cleopatra, refusing to be paraded through Rome as a captive, chose a different path. According to legend, Cleopatra arranged for a venomous snake, an asp, to be smuggled into her chambers. She used its bite to end her life, a final act of defiance against Octavian. With her death in 30 BCE, Egypt fell to Rome, ending the era of the pharaohs. Chapter 8, Cleopatra's Legacy. Scene: modern-day Egypt, the pyramids silhouetted against the sky. Narrator: Cleopatra's life and death have captivated the world for centuries. To some, she was a seductress who used her beauty to manipulate powerful men. To others, she was a brilliant leader who fought to protect her people and her kingdom. Montage: Cleopatra's portrayal in art, literature, and film through the ages. Narrator: Cleopatra's legacy endures as a testament to the complexities of power, politics, and ambition. Her story reminds us that history is not just a record of events, but a reflection of the people who shape it. Closing scene: a sunset over the Nile, fading to black. Narrator: Cleopatra, the queen who defined an era, defied an empire, and left a legacy that continues to inspire.